trust yourself. You can do it. If you have the dream and you have the structural framework, you have the business plan, you have the funding, you've done all your homework, like you can do it. You just have to make sure all the pieces are in place.
This is the Aesthetics Growth Podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome. It's Bref. I'm back with another episode of the Aesthetics Growth Podcast, and today I'm really excited to have Jennifer Pantoja on the call. Jennifer runs Transformed Aesthetics and Wellness based in Frederick, Maryland. And Jennifer's got a really cool story of growth, expanding her business and growing her business. And I'm really excited to kind of learn more from Jennifer today about some of the differentiators that her and her team have been able to install in her business to increase that positive impact that she's having within the community. Jennifer, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you here.
Awesome. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
100%. So, Jen, would love to, I know a little bit obviously about your background, but for anybody who hasn't met you, how did you get to be where you are today? Maybe you can give us a little bit of the background on your journey within the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always had an interest in aesthetics and thought it would be an interesting part of medicine to learn more about. When I graduated from NP school, I thought I got to put my time in and do primary care for a while. So I did that for about 7 years. I rounded at nursing homes and I did primary care. And then COVID hit, and then it got really hairy in the nursing homes and very sad. So that was the time I was like, it's time to make the jump to aesthetics and do what I've always wanted to do and finally jump to it. So after 2021, I jumped to aesthetics and started at a med spa, learning and growing and taking more classes and taking more classes and taking more classes and learning all kinds of different things. And then I always wanted to be a business owner. So that kind of started around then. And then I kept learning and growing for the last few years. It's been a fun journey.
Awesome. I love it. So from ICU, right, and family practice into aesthetics and that entrepreneurial journey, what was that sort of pivotal point for you when you sort of realized, okay, now is the time, right? And just, what was that like for you?
I had some friends who were business owners and they had been talking about it. And I'd been thinking, oh, that sounds really cool. I want to do that, but it's so scary. And then after watching her grow she owned a dental practice for a couple of years, I thought I could do that. I switched to aesthetics and I started growing and I opened a little concierge Botox practice where I learned kind of how to run a business. And then that was the moment where it was post-COVID. I needed a change and I was like, I can do this. And I decided to branch out and do my own. Started off as a little thing and now it's a much larger thing.
Awesome. What you said there, I think, Jen, is actually really important because you started off with, number one, there was that obviously desire and you took action to get started, but you also had a really important focus there, right? You didn't try and have 25 different services and invest in a bunch of equipment, but you started out really specifically within Botox, facial, and injectables, right?
Yeah, very specific. It was very small, just trying to start off just a few patients with what I could manage budget-wise and time-wise, Botox, chemical peels, and a little microneedling, and that was it.
Okay. And was that intentional where you knew that you needed to scale out from there, or what was sort of your plan? You're thinking about getting started and maybe, expanding because you did have that focus. I'd love for you to sort of relate to the audience, why you did that, why you took that approach and how important that was for you to get started and to get on your trajectory of growth.
Absolutely. It was important for me to keep it budget-wise, not go into a lot of debt, getting machines and services and a huge lease that I maybe couldn't pay for yet. So just starting to build my clientele with a small overhead, small services, and just really get a few people that I knew would be my clients. So then when I met my goal of eventually having a location with a lease and expensive payments, I would have at least some patients already ready to come see me.
Right. Very cool. And what would you say, in those initial days of when you got started, it's your kind of solopreneur, you've been expanding. What were some of the challenges that you went through in those early stages to get where you are now? And there's always challenges, of course, there's different levels, but we'd just love to understand what that was like for you on your journey.
It was definitely hard. I was still working, part-time at the primary care, mostly full-time at med spa, and then trying to run my own little concierge business. So the time was really an issue, trying to make money while I build client base. And also, trying to have enough money to not go into debt to buy all the things to start. And then I really struggled with marketing. That's not something we learn in nursing school. It's not something we know anything about. So trying to run a Facebook ad on my own or write an email that people might want to read. And that was definitely, that's been a whole different journey of something I never learned before. So.
Right. Yeah, well, we'll definitely unpack that because that can be almost like the inevitable journey where you have to wear a lot of hats at the beginning because you're getting started, right? And then you've been able to sort of delegate some of those as you've been growing the business. What was it like when it came to what was that initial stages of delegation like for you as you've been growing transformed? What with your, like, your first hires and getting to those different stages? How did that all unfold for you?
Yeah, so it's been a lot different than my little concierge practice with just me running the books, running the booking, doing everything on my own to now I run a med spa. We have 10 employees, 6 full time, and it's been a whole different world. My first hire was, I'm interviewing all these people and I don't know what to ask and I don't know how to, I think everyone's great in the whole world. Though I go forward with my life thinking everyone's wonderful, which just makes it hard to hire because then you don't, you got to figure out who fits with your team. So that was definitely a struggle. I took over Transformed last fall and had to hire 2 people. I had 100 resumes on Indeed, trying to sift through them. And it ended up being someone that had been here before that the front desk knew and said, I know that name. She's really great. And I said, bring her in. Let's talk to her. So it ended up being less the pile of resumes and more, what people know and sift through the characters that will fit with your team. Has been interesting, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think that's super important is having some element of a network effect and also being able to harness that as you've been growing your business. Kind of maybe just switching to when it comes to the ways that you've been growing the business as well through the services that you offer and some of the differentiators with Transformed. Um, a lot of aesthetic practices will focus on aesthetics and kind of stay with a laser beam focus there. But talk to us a little bit about how you've expanded with some of the different services that you offer and some of maybe the passion behind it as well.
Absolutely. So at Transformed, I think one of the things that makes us different from a lot of other med spas is we do Botox, lasers, and skincare like most people, but we also focus on hormone replacement and sexual wellness and treating the whole person as they age or even as they're younger and they're having issues. It's been important to me because I had a baby a few years ago and had a rough postpartum patch. And, a lot of people don't come in for help and even know that we can help. So, we have vaginal lasers, we have pelvic floor strengthening, we have O shots and P shots and things that can help, people repair and have functional wellness as they go on in their life, but also sexual wellness and just being able to enjoy their lives. And then through menopause, we do a lot of hormone replacement and vaginal rejuvenation and things like that as well to help people, you know, age better, have less hot flashes, sleep better. It goes into more than just, oh, I have a little incontinence and that's probably normal. First of all, it's not normal. We can fix that. And then, there's so many other things that go along with it. So it's ranged from me wanting to help people to also now from menopause all the way to now postpartum where I've helped people my age as well. So it's been very interesting and I love it.
Awesome. Yeah, I know from speaking to you that there's certainly a passion there. And it's really cool too, because, like you mentioned, you're able to, I think, impact people's lives in greater ways when you're able to offer a greater array of services. And it comes down to really helping people to not only look better, but to feel better and to be better versions of themselves. And Jen, it's also when you look at the different services that you offer, right? There's kind of different ways that patients can come to you depending on what they need or what they're looking for, right? That patient journey. How have you found that with, from we'll say Botox and fillers, and then you've got we'll say the sexual wellness services, hormone therapy, those types of things. How have you been able to benefit from that, from the different types of patients that you get while growing your practice?
Absolutely. I think we have a lot of hormone patients who come in and they don't care about Botox or their skin or anything else. And after they've been here for a while, they, oh, I saw this person, got a sunspot removed or had this, I have a wedding coming up and I want to get a facial and they can ask us more questions. And then, we can brighten their skin up on their face and then it matches how good they're starting to feel in their body and the energy level. And then it all kind of blends together. So that's been a nice transition from hormone patients over to some skincare. And then it's nice when the skincare patients come in and you can be like, oh, well, just so when, have this dysfunction or that dysfunction or this doesn't feel right or that, we can fix that. Ha ha. And they're like, oh, really? And it plants seeds to maybe even treat them later or help them later. And then they come back in 3 months and go, I've been thinking about that. And I really think that would help me. I do have a little bit of incontinence or I have had a little bit of pain with intercourse. And then you can plant the seeds and then help them along their journey too.
Mm. You meant when it comes to helping them along their journey, I think that's so critical, right? Because it truly is a journey, this life that we're on, right? But also for the patient, they're coming in for, and especially for that first interaction, there's a reason that they've reached out. They're coming in for something, whether it's a referral or from an ad. But what you mentioned, Jen, as far as you kind of sowing the seeds, you're developing that relationship. I'd love if you could talk a little bit about how you and your team do that, about truly understanding and creating a plan for a patient and kind of like introducing or sowing the seeds at the right time so that you're not trying to sell them everything all at once, but you're truly looking out for the best interest and introducing them to the possibilities for better outcomes once you actually understand what they need.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important they come in with one specific concern, and typically we address that. And like to provide a lot of education in my consult about all the different things that could be causing that concern, and maybe other ways we could treat those things. That we'll start with what they talk about. And so I like to say, like, just so you know, these are other things that could affect her, or just so you know. And I just provide education in a very like, you don't have to buy this. This isn't a pressure. And I think people really appreciate just learning all the different ways we can help, even if they came in for, my doctor said I need my pelvic floor strengthened, and they come in for Amcella. And then we can talk about hormones and O shots and divas and with no pressure. And then they learn about it. And then at some point they may come in later and be like, actually, I was thinking about it and that could really help me. And I like to just plant seeds and give education more than trying to sell people on things.
Mm, awesome. How about with your new patient consultation? Because it's never really like a one size fits all when it comes to how everybody runs their consultations, but it's such an important start to that new patient journey. What have you found to be sort of the keys of success for that initial consultation, so that it turns into a patient that feels comfortable with coming back in again and again and embarking with you and your team on a longer journey?
I think providing realistic expectations and a kind of a course of plan. We're going to do Botox, but it's not going to get rid of all your lines. Or we're going to do this thing, but this is the expectation. It's going to make you this much better or this much happier. It's not. People go, if I do filler, is this line going to be gone? And it's like 3 inches deep. You're like, no, it's not going to go away in one treatment. But to be honest about their expectations, so they trust you. And then to set
Mm,
out the plan of kind of the course of what you expect them to need. And then also, providing education so they understand why. Education is really important for trust. So they know why you're doing what you're doing, and then what the plan is, and then cost. We don't change our costs. We're very transparent. I don't hide costs from people. And I think that's important too. And I don't try to upsell too much. If they're like, I don't want filler, I don't try to talk them into filler. We talk about lasers and other skincare. And we may get to filler in a year or two if they want it, but it doesn't have to be today.
right, right. How do you, Jen, when it comes to the piece you mentioned there, the educational piece, how do you and your team approach that with patients, just from an overall holistic standpoint, from the practice, how you're communicating with patients, educating them on the services that you offer, down to different providers, and kind of, as much as we can, staying on the same page with the message and how we're doing things as a team.
I think it's important. All the providers here know that we like to lead with education and explain the rationale of why we're doing things or why we recommend something to the patient. So most of us do that in our consult. We try to write things down for people too. This is, for skincare, you want to do this in the morning and the night, and this is why. This is for exfoliation. This is for cleansing. Even if it's simple, just so people can see it clearly. And the same with making a plan for a whole skincare regimen. Try to like write down the plan so they can see it, they know it, they have it in their hand, and then this is what each thing is going to do for you, so they have a comfortable understanding. A lot of times it's overwhelming because there's like 12 things we can do to make your skin better, and it's too much information. So try to simplify it in a way they can understand, but then we all kind of provide and then write it down so we all know if they come back what we recommended, and we're all on the same page.
Awesome, awesome. And when it comes to kind of like reinforcing those messages, and I love what you said there as well about simplifying it, right? Kind of, it's got to be understood by the patient, and people sort of can be educated and absorb things in different ways, whether there's visual or certain ways to talk about things, and depending on who that personality is, maybe different approaches that need to be taken. How do when it comes to that sort of first time, that first interaction with communicating to new patients, how has that evolved for you and your businesses over the years? Like, what sort of strategies have you been using to get the word out, to increase referrals, and to keep getting new patients in while also increasing the retention and the return visits?
Most important ways to get new patients in is just referrals from other existing patients, especially for hormones. They get their hormones poisoned and they go to all their friends. They're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. You guys have to do this too. And then they tell them a few times and then their friends come in. So that's how we get most of our hormone patients, is they just feel so much better and they need everyone to know. And so they can all come feel better too. For
Mm,
Botox companies like that, the more the skincare side, they'll tell their friends, but also we try to get a lot of good Google reviews to bring new patients in. Patients will tell us they find us on Google. We've been doing Facebook ads with you guys, and people have been saying they find us on Facebook. So that's kind of cool. That's a new thing since we joined you all, that we've actually been getting people off in social media. And then we make educational content and funny content for Instagram, and that's been starting to get people in. So that's
mm.
fun. It's starting to pay off.
Awesome. I love it. There's so many, gold nuggets in there. One of the first things you mentioned was the referrals, right? And that, at its essence, is one of the most important things at any business, that we can deliver an amazing service, incredible outcomes with the right expectations in place, so that people tell more people, and you've been benefiting from that. And that kind of, as your patient base grows, the referrals tend to grow as well. What about the reviews? Because that's so important. What's been working for you and the team when it comes to consistently getting reviews?
We, for a while, were sending out emails, which we were doing manually, trying to like upload all the, data and email out and try to get reviews. And that did give us a decent amount of reviews, but that was definitely, we manually were doing it. So we'd forget for a month, and then it'd be kind of long, and then we wouldn't get results. So we have a little QR code at the front, and the front desk is pretty good about trying to ask, not everybody all the time, but try to ask people. And then we just joined a company that helps text out Google reviews like at 7 p.m. the day after the day of the appointment. And that's actually, we've had them for a week, and we've already gotten 3 reviews. So that's actually been really helpful.
Awesome. So the relevancy of right there, like after the initial appointment, asking for the review, love the QR code as well when the patients are coming in, asking them, creating that culture of doing that, of course, and sending the link. How about then with I love what you said about social media. So you've been doing ads, but also really importantly, that unique content that you and the team are now creating, right? Getting that personality out there. You mentioned kind of some of the fun stuff you're doing. Would you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we do some educational content, which is good and all, but I really think people enjoy the funny content. Or our front desk has almost become famous with our patients for dancing around, doing funny voiceovers and videos and stuff. So they'll come in and be like, "Carrie, we saw you on Instagram." She laughs and they love it. So it's been kind of fun for our own old patients to see and love. And then for new patients, they've seen some of the either Botox education ones or just some of the other fun stuff we've done. And it's silly, but the staff's like, "Oh, we got to make Instagram reels." And then we're all laughing and having fun by the end of blast. So it's turned out to be a pretty fun addition to the business.
Awesome. And it's kind of, when you said that, it reminds me of, I talk a little bit about edutainment, mixing up that, education, but also in a compelling way that delivers kind of an authentic message, what it's like to actually come and meet your team where, hopefully during the course of, it's a business relationship, but it's a patient relationship. And hopefully it's going to be like a fun relationship, right? Where, people actually enjoy coming in and working, with the business, working with you and the team. So I love what you said there. There's education, but also the entertainment piece. And how have you been able to kind of keep that momentum going, right? Like you start off, but then you almost have to have some form of a cadence or a schedule. How have you and the team been able to kind of embed that in the day-to-day or the week-to-week activities?
Today we have 2 front desks. The younger one, Riley, she blocked my schedule today and wrote, "Make educational Instagram reels." And I took that block of time and I made reels. So sometimes it's literally scheduling it on your schedule, so you go do it. The fun ones we tend to make a little easier. I feel like those don't have to be blocked on the schedule, but the ones where I have to sit down and do an education about this is what Botox does, or this is what this laser does, and take the time to do it. A lot of times it takes just sitting down to do it, and then I'll make a bunch in one day, and then she'll post them throughout the month for me.
Excellent. Excellent. Hey, so a quick message, don't get right back to the show. This episode is brought to you by ClinicGrower, my growth marketing agency that helps medical spas and aesthetic practices to scale sustainably with multi-channel marketing, with smart automation and real-world conversion strategies. Now, I know that might sound a little bit vague, and that's because growing your business isn't really a one-size-fits-all formula. Every practice is going to be different, and so should your marketing plan too. So at ClinicGrower, we offer a completely free marketing audit, a growth plan, that's customized for you and for your business. This is going to include a full analysis of your current presence, your current marketing, your local competition, and also a roadmap, a growth plan designed to help you to attract more high quality patients and to increase your revenue and to grow your business. So if you want to scale with clarity and confidence, just head over to clinicgrower.com/schedule to book your free consultation. That's clinicgrower.com/schedule. Now back to the show. And, when it comes to sort of, I suppose you have to always sort of track the inputs, like the things you're doing with growing the business, and then the outcomes. So we can put a lot of effort into doing, getting reviews, a referral program, doing the content, for example, the email, the text. What's been most helpful for you when it comes to, from a business standpoint, the kind of ownership standpoint, like looking at that, at kind of the data, tracking results and understanding where to put more effort?
Well, as a new business owner, we just started tracking where the referrals are coming in from, and I like to ask, and the other nurse Shannon, she likes to ask. And so, we're like, hey, how'd you hear about us? And whether they say Google or Instagram or Facebook or you guys, they'll let us know, and then I'm starting to track it. So it's interesting to see because a lot's been Google, but now we're getting more Facebook and more Instagram. So knowing that it's our marketing's working is helpful. So we don't have too many months of data on it yet, but it is something we're starting to track, and it makes you realize you're doing a good job.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I know we were talking a little bit just before the show here as well, as far as, the time of recording, we're heading into, the kids are back at school, people are back in their routines, we're going into the busy season. How are you going to be approaching that, Jen, from the aspect of being able to help as many patients as possible and continue growing the business to new levels throughout the rest of the year? Any certain plans you have or promotions or anything particular that you guys are working on there?
Yeah, so we try to do like a monthly special of some kind of service every month. I think we're going to target lasers through the next few months because it's laser season now. And then we have a big open house in November where we do a bunch of discounts. It's the week before Black Friday so that we can have time to do it and everyone's available. We do big discounts. We do skincare discounts. SkinCeuticals is going to come in and help us throw a party and give some giveaways to people. So try to bring people in and then we can educate. We're going to have other reps to educate and talk to people. And then we do raffle prizes, which everyone loves because they want to come. So they talk, they eat, they drink, they do raffle prizes. And we did it last year. It was a really fun night. So we're going to do it even bigger and better this year because we have more time to plan. Last year we planned it in 4 weeks and we did a pretty good job. So
Good stuff. Good stuff. Excellent. You mentioned a little bit earlier as well, kind of as, first time entrepreneur, right? Going from, obviously the education, the industry to owning and operating your own business. As an entrepreneur, if you look over the last year, for example, what would you say have been some of the biggest lessons that you've learned?
the last year has been the biggest year. I took over running Transformed in October of last year, and it was just chaos. Learning to delegate, not feeling like I have
Mm.
to do everything. I hired Riley at the front, and she helped me, with Instagram stuff, and just like letting her do it and trusting your employees because they're smart and they're good, and you hired a good person, and letting them take something and do it, and not micromanage or follow up, and that's given me more time to see patients and grow revenue and focus on other things. So definitely delegation, hiring good people has been important. And then just learning the whole flow of the ins and outs of watching the money and watching the, appointment reports and making sure everything's scheduled. And it's been a whirlwind.
Yeah, you nailed it as far as I can tell. When you got good people, obviously that's half the battle. Finding the people. You mentioned the hiring process a little bit earlier, and how has your position within your business changed over that last year as well? Because as you kind of elevate and delegate, you touched on it there. You're doing things a little differently in business. What does your sort of job or your position in your business look like now versus even just a year ago?
I feel like before I took over like the management business ownership side, I just came in and worked as a nurse practitioner, saw my patients and maybe made some Instagram reels and then went home. And now, I'm managing patient issues and client issues and staff issues if we have any and, making sure things are booked and checking on marketing. And it's definitely been more encompassing, but I think it's really important to have such a good team because they help me with so many things. If I ever need
Mm.
follow up or someone to be called or whatever it might be, they will help me and make me less overwhelmed with whatever the day is.
Yeah, yeah, sure. And having those right hand team members is critical. I mean, that's exactly what it's about because they're your force multipliers. They really help you to, essentially to increase the reach of your mission as you're reaching more patients and growing the business. Now, you're still obviously treating patients, Jen. So, what are some of your personal favorite treatments to perform? What do you love working with patients on?
I think one of my best before and afters is doing like lasers on patients and just being able to see their skin glow. And then I think doing the sexual wellness stuff where people are coming in with, dryness, incontinence, pain, or they're having hot flashes and they just don't feel good. And you can do hormone replacement and, the Diva, which is the vaginal laser. And they come in 3 months later and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I have so much more energy. My whole life has changed. I can sleep better. I'm nice to my husband again. I used to be really crabby. I feel better. Like everything's better. And you just feel like, oh, I'm doing a good job, like I'm really helping people. And you still feel connected to what I would call like real medicine versus, more the Botox and skincare.
Mm. Yeah, I can really hear the enthusiasm in your voice when you talk about those patient outcomes and the results that you're seeing patients receive there as well. It's kind of cool talking to you about what you've achieved and what you're doing with your business within a relatively short amount of time. So I'd love to ask you as well. The industry is constantly changing, evolving between technologies and just the rate of speed of some of those technologies and devices coming in. Where do you, Jen, where do you see the industry going or being within the next 3 to 5 years?
I do see it turning a little more towards the wellness, like holistic side of medicine. A lot of people don't want a lot of filler anymore. They're not wanting, I almost feel like lasers are more the regenerative along with like the hormones. They're kind of healing the body from the inside out. We were
Mm.
talking just this week about adding some IV therapy here because people want to feel better, not just look better. And I think that's a big change that we're seeing. With all weight loss drugs that have been out and peptides and all the other things, I think that's really where we're heading.
It's right. So, with that as well, it's interesting. The kind of there's education involved from the patient standpoint to understand, the possibilities and the types of treatments that are available, but also for you and the team as well. How do you all deal with the education piece and kind of staying on the front foot when it comes to those types of developments and innovation?
We love to any kind of webinar or training or anything that's done by the vendors that provide us things that are free. We always try to go to those dinners or go to the education and then trying to go to conferences to learn what's new and what's going on. And then I like to listen to podcasts too and see what other people are talking about and what other people are doing and see we should do that too. Or is there a way we could be better or learn a new thing or bring in a new service? And I like to learn from others as much as I can.
Any particular favorite events or conferences that you love to attend?
I'm going to a leadership conference in October for business owners that I'm really excited about. I decided to
Mm.
do a non-Botox, like medical focused one. And I'm going to a hormone replacement conference in 2 weeks. I shouldn't forget that one.
Okay.
So yeah, so I do like the hormone one a lot. It's with BioT, so they do a big conference. They talk about hormones, but they also talk about peptides and wellness and other things you could add into the hormone replacement journey that will make patients feel better and solve other issues. And so I went to that conference last year too, and I thought that that was a very helpful, addition, some other extra information we can bring to our practice.
Awesome. So I love it. So you're really kind of doing a focus on both the clinical, the medical side, and also on the business side as well. Sort of like doing two real focus types of events. When it comes to, we spoke about the clinical aspect. On the business side, what are you most excited to kind of to learn more or to implement more on the business aspect?
I think as a new business owner coming from, medicine, I don't know enough about maybe like reporting and running all the data and getting all the numbers. And I'm a numbers person because I'm a science person, but I don't necessarily know
Mm.
as good about following all my marketing numbers and following all my, and having all my data in one place and watching the ins and outs of the business. And someone asked me what my, revenue per square footage is. And I was like, oh. So learning some more
Mm.
things of way I could be a bit better business owner, a better leader for my staff, a better clinician for my patients, things like that.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. And there's some definite real things there as well. That absolutely knowing those numbers and just understanding the sort of the increase in productivity that you can get from leveraging those numbers, which again just amplifies the impact that you can have with patients in the community as well. So I'm super excited. We'll have to do a follow up after you sort of like taking a few steps forward in some of those directions as well. But hey, that's it, right? When it comes to owning a business and operating a business, there's almost like never a perfect time to do it, right? You can never know everything, and some of the stuff you just have to learn kind of like on the job. Yes, we can prepare, and I know being in medicine, you wouldn't typically operate on a patient, or you wouldn't even inject a patient until you had the skills. So when it comes to the business piece, you obviously you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable as business owners, right? To do new things and to whether it's make that decision to hire that team member. Could you talk a little bit about someone who might be listening that's potentially in that like analysis paralysis, or they're in that stage where they know they need to do something, but it's like, no, I'll wait because I have to do this and I have to do this until I can do that. How was that for you? Was there any obstacles there? And for anybody who might be listening that might have some of those obstacles, what would you say to them?
I'm a spreadsheet person. So for me, I was like, I know that I can increase my productivity if I have a new laser device because there's two nurses and we can both use the laser at the same time. So I was like, okay, I know that that's a good idea on spreadsheets. And then I went and I looked at the money and I was like, can I afford it? I was like, yes, I can
Mm.
afford it. It's a good time. And I was like, well, if I do it now, then I can have income productivity in the fall, my busiest time of year. So you put it all together. And then if the decision makes sense, for me, it was budget. Do I need it? Is it the right decision? Are we lacking the service? And if it was, all those things were true, then so I purchased a new laser, and then it ended up being a great decision. But if I didn't have the money for it, I didn't really need it in my schedule, right? If I didn't have enough providers for it or anything like that, then it wouldn't have been a good decision. Same with hiring a staff member, making sure I have it in the budget, that I need that many hours, that they're the right fit, I'm the right fit. And then if it's all right, just do it, because you're going to get paralyzed all the time with decision fatigue. So just do it.
Love it. Love it. So basically what I'm hearing there is you got to have a strategy. You got to have a goal. You got to have a strategy to achieve that goal. And then ensuring that there's all the right components in the right place. You've got the budget, you've got the skills, you've got the capacity to get it done. Just do it, right? Because unless you actually take action in life, then there's really going to be no way to compare whether it could work or couldn't work. At some level, you got to take action.
Exactly. I love that. That's a good way to put it.
That was your advice. So thank you. When it comes to that's some great advice for people listening, because I know how it can be in a world of there's so much information, and then at some level you're like, well, you gotta use that information. But Jen, what would you say then? That was some great advice that you've been able to impart. What's been some of the most helpful advice that you've been able to absorb to this point of your career that has helped you on your way?
I think part of it has been like learning to trust myself that I'm making good decisions. And, my friend who owns her practice, being like, you can do this, and the encouragement. And she's like, you're smart. You have all that you need to do it. Like, you can do it, that encouragement, and knowing that you like trust yourself. You can do it. If you have the dream and you have the structural framework, you have the business plan, you have the funding, you've done all your homework, like you can do it. You just have to make sure all the pieces are in place and to not second guess yourself for 10 years, or you'll never do it.
Right. I love that. And, speaking about kind of like the next 10 years or just looking into the future, what's coming up next for you and for the team at Transformed Aesthetics and Wellness? What's on the horizon for you all?
Business owner since March officially here. Trying not to go too crazy. I would love to bring another injector in eventually. We don't need it right now, but, expand the amount of productivity we could do, the amount of revenue we could bring in, expand our hormone replacement program more, as I think we could see more and help more patients that way. So I think there's room to expand here, and then eventually maybe 5 or 10 years down the road, maybe we could have another location or expand on increasing revenue and productivity here is a really good goal.
Yeah, awesome. Love it. And just like I love hearing about, what you've achieved in a relatively short amount of time, because I think as business owners, we sometimes, and you're on the journey, but we can underestimate what we can accomplish in 5 years, 3 years, because it seems like a really long time. And then sometimes we overestimate what we can do in a day. So it's about kind of those expectations. And like you said, having a plan, having a strategy, executing on that strategy. For anyone who's been listening and hopefully, just taking some mental notes or being inspired by your story of growing your business within the last, 8-9 months, is there any parting wisdom or nuggets that you'd like to leave for anybody listening?
I think get a good team, get good people around you, and set yourself up for success with, marketing, your team members, and then, having your support staff. I feel like anywhere in life you need a village. It's true in motherhood. It's true in business. And you got to have your good village at home so you can focus all your energy on the business. I think it's the same in the business. Have your team. I have some PRN staff who come and help me when we need it. Like, just having that village to support you in your whole journey makes everything run faster. The team is happy. The patients are happy. It all runs a lot smoother. So your village is needed everywhere.
Yep, the village is real. Jen, for anyone who's been listening and is curious about learning more about what you're doing, would like to reach out and connect, what's the best way for them to do that?
On Instagram, my Instagram handle is Timeless Injector, and then our Transformed is Transformed AWC, Aesthetic Wellness Center. That's what the AWC is. So either one of those is good. You can message us, or my email's jen@transformedmedspa.net if you guys want to email me either.
Beautiful. Well, Jen, thanks so much for being on the show today to impart your message, to share your journey that I'm sure is going to inspire many. It's been awesome to hear about your growth journey, and I'm super excited because in a lot of respects, you're just getting started. It's like it's early days. You've been able to accomplish so much, and there's so much more that you will accomplish, especially with the positive direction that you're going on, the plan that you have in place, and the impact that you've already been able to create within the communities that you serve. So thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, it's Brett here with ClinicGrower, and I've got a quick favor to ask. If you're loving the Aesthetics Growth podcast, go ahead and hit that like or hit that subscribe, more importantly, so that we can keep bringing you the best of the industry. I really want this to be impactful and the highest quality, and the best way that you can help us to do that is to hit that like, hit that subscribe. And remember, if you would like to be a guest on the Aesthetics Growth podcast, go to clinicgrower.com/podcast.
This is the Aesthetics Growth Podcast.